And Jeremy Bash, then, our former chief of staff at the CIA, also at the Pentagon and NBC News contributor. Jeremy, I pose this question to you then, which is that this is not just a regional war that we're now seeing underway, but it has real ripple effects globally as well. We are hearing for the first time from the Russian foreign minister, who, as you would expect, is condemning these strikes by the United States, saying in part it leaves no doubt that this was a pre-planned and unprovoked act, in the Russians' words, armed aggression against a sovereign and independent UN member state in violation of the fundamental principles and norms of international law. You know, it's striking that the president came in with a desire to end wars, among them the war between Russia and Ukraine that he initially had said he thought he could complete even before coming into office, if not on day one. That war remains unresolved. This only puts further pressure and tension as it relates to the U.S.-Russia relationship. But specific to Iran, Iran has a lot of support from some rogue nations around the world, Russia among them, North Korea, China, and beyond. This does bring a lot of other players into the mix very quickly.
That's right. So Iran sells oil and gas to China. That's how they fund their economy. And, of course, they've been selling drones to Russia to use in the Ukraine battle space. And so there's military cooperation between the Russian Federation and Iran. And I think you're exactly right, Peter. There are global repercussions for this military action today. But I think really this all is about the nuclear equation. So, remember, U.S. intelligence has assessed that Iran was trying to build a nuclear weapon until at least 2002, when they suspended work on that nuclear weaponization program. But Iran always maintained the right, or the ability, the capability to enrich uranium, that bomb fuel that, if highly enriched, could become the fuel for a nuclear weapon. And for many years now, the United States, Israel, our allies and partners, have been trying to prevent Iran from breaking out. That's the phrase you hear, breaking out the civilian or potentially peaceful use of nuclear energy into a weaponization program. We don't have any evidence today that Iran is trying to build that implosion device, the warhead, for a nuclear weapon. But I think the Trump administration came to the conclusion that we can't trust Iran to have any enrichment whatsoever. Under the Obama administration, there was a diplomatic deal to try to allow for Iran to have some low-level enrichment. That deal had many problems with it because it was going to sunset ultimately, and Iran was going to be able to go back to a more robust nuclear enrichment program. Of course, Trump pulled out of that deal. The Biden administration stayed out of that deal because, of course, the sanctions had already been waived. But when Trump came back in office this time, I think he thought to himself, there's no way we can trust the Iranians to have any nuclear enrichment whatsoever. And so really, I think from the beginning, the view was the U.S. was going to go after Fordo, it was going to go after Natanz, it was going to go after Isfahan, the nuclear program in Iran. But ultimately, there was going to be no solution to the nuclear program issue unless the regime changed. But again, as we've been talking about all morning, since the president posted on Truth Social, and as all of our correspondents and analysts have been noting, you can't just have regime change from the air. You can't do it from the Tomahawk weapons platform off of a naval ship. You can't do it off of the air-to-ground system of an F-22. In order to have regime change, you have to have support for people on the ground. You have to have something that comes behind the regime. You have to have, in a phrase, nation building, building up capabilities and ministries and the state functions so that the Iranian people can be fed. They can get health care. They can go about their daily lives. This cannot happen just from military action alone. So, again, there are many, many, many blanks to be filled in by the administration, by Israel at this hour. But we do have overwhelming military superiority in the region. And I think this first round is definitively going to go to the United States and Israel. The question is, what happens in round two?
Jeremy, as you point out, there is no evidence of Iran building that type of warhead. But the president did make a point in his video posted overnight that Iran has been building missiles that could soon reach the American homeland. And obviously, that is the concern that would be paramount for American citizens living here. Talk to us about what types of abilities Iran does have at its disposal right now.
Well, look, Iran has been building a highly capable long-range ballistic and cruise missile fleet. They right now have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can fly and hit Israel. We've seen that in April and October of 2024. And some of those missiles can even range parts of Europe. And I think only with a few more months and years of enhanced capability, Iran will be able to launch those missiles. They basically fly into space. They can look like space satellites upon launch, and then they can fly through the atmosphere and hit United States targets in our homeland. We're not there yet. Iran doesn't have it yet, but I think Trump is basically preempting that capability. He's saying we don't want Iran to have that capability. And so they don't have a nuclear weapon. They don't have a nuclear warhead. They don't have an ICBM capability yet. You'd have to mate the two in order to really fire nuclear weapons at the homeland. But they can wreak a lot of havoc with their cruise missile program, their ballistic missile program, their surrogates, their proxies, their naval forces, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and other alignment that they have with the Houthis in Yemen and even Hezbollah in Lebanon. The remnants are still there. So Iran has a lot of asymmetric threats right now against the United States, against Israel, and against our key allies and partners. We're seeing some, as we've been talking about all morning, some explosions in Erbil, in Kurdistan, in Doha, in Qatar, near our military facilities at Al Udeid, near our military facilities at Bahrain, at Manama, at the Fifth Fleet. We'll see what else they can fire off against the United Arab Emirates. We also have forces at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. We've got forces at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, of course, in Kuwait as well, at Al Dhafra in UAE. So we've got a lot of targets in the region, including our naval vessels. And for the first time, the U.S. put aircraft on the ground in Israel, tankers at Ben Gurion Airport, F-22s down at Ovda Air Base in the Negev. So Iran has a lot of targets. The question is, will U.S. and Israeli jets and naval vessels be able to take out some of those missiles in the early hours of this conflict?
I mean, obviously, there was so much buildup in the days and weeks ahead, and we had all been sort of on guard for something of this scale. But in the short term, obviously, the U.S. has the assets in the region, as Courtney outlined. But in the long term, this is something, if it was to go on for weeks or potentially even longer, what would be the vulnerability for the U.S. there?
Well, look, the United States was in Afghanistan for 20 years. We were in Iraq from 2003 until 2011, and we maintain a presence in the region as a result of those post-9/11 wars. So I don't think anybody should expect that this is going to be a one and done, like the Maduro op or even Midnight Hammer. I think this should be thought of as an expanded, and even the president said, a massive military operation. And that doesn't happen in days. It doesn't even happen in weeks. I think we can expect that for months and even years to come, the United States is going to be involved militarily in the future of Iran. And again, what capabilities we need to field, whether it's on the ground or working with allies and partners, working with local groups, that remains to be developed, remains to be fielded. At this hour, the only thing that the United States is trying to do is decimate command and control, take out ballistic missiles, take out cruise missiles, take out nuclear infrastructure, and target regime targets. I say only as if it's incredibly complex and it's incredibly dangerous work for the pilots and for our service members in the region. But the much more dangerous mission, the much more complicated mission, the much more high stakes and if you will, less certain mission is going to be whether or not we can be on the ground helping the Iranian people achieve the objective that the president laid out. I think there are many questions about that tonight.